In less than 2 weeks, the NFL draft will be upon us. And as college football fans, we'll celebrate many of our guys fulfilling a lifelong dream to be selected by NFL teams. But this is a college football show, and we know team fit matters as much as individual talent does. We also know each year the NFL draft is a function created to reward the worst teams with the best available players. It's why a guy like Trevor Lawrence is all but assured selection by a franchise who lost more games last season than Lawrence lost across his high school and college football careers combined. In college alone, Lawrence was 34-2 as a starter. Wins might not be a quarterback stat, but it doesn't hurt to have a guy labeled as a winner as your signal caller. It's why many folks are rooting for Mac Jones, Trey Lance, or if you're like me, Justin Fields' selection to the 49ers. That team at least played it in a Super Bowl 2 years ago and boasts a head coach many believe is an offensive mastermind on par with Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day, and Andy Reid. It's why many folks, from BYU fans to college football casuals, are already begging the New York Jets to change up the get down or just, select a non-quarterback. We want Zach Wilson at a club where we know he can succeed. And the Jets have shown year after year that they ain't it. Wilson is the kind of guy who drove for DoorDash to pay for gas money. Then he went 18 for 18 for 317 yards with 4 touchdowns against Western Michigan, only to find out 2 days later he needed to have surgery to repair a torn labrum in his shoulder. It's the kind of injury that threatened to end Drew Brees' career before he became who he is. In 2019, Wilson threw an interception against Toledo and then ran down the pickpocket for the tackle, only to break the thumb on his throwing hand. Doctors put pins in the thumb and threw it into a cast. By the time he was released to play 5 games later, his thumb had atrophied, making his grip weaker on the ball. He played the last 4 games of the season anyway. And last year, he led BYU to an 11-1 record in a pandemic. The Cougars finished number 11 in the AP poll, their highest finish since 2009, and their first one-loss season since 1996, when BYU head coach Kalani Sitake was just a BYU fullback. Look, there are a few good reasons not to select Wilson at number 2. Like his competition over the last 3 years wasn't that great. Many of his best games have come against teams we all believe BYU should stomp a mud hole in and walk dry. He can't escape his injury history, and those questions of durability, and yeah, we have very little idea whether he can withstand the harsh glare of the New York media, especially coming from a place like Provo, where they are decidedly pro-Wilson. But those points feel moot because it ain't up to us. The Jets have declared their intentions for a quarterback. They traded Sam Darnold to Carolina, and they have all but drooled over the prospect of selecting Wilson with the 2nd overall pick. If that is indeed what the Jets decided to do, Mr. Wilson's walking into a job tougher than keeping Dennis the Menace on the straight and narrow. And we haven't done a whole lot of picking on Wilson, and I think that's for good reason. We acknowledge he ain't the Jets' problem. Allow me to show you who he is. Do you remember this guy, Darnold? Do you remember when folks were saying with a straight face that he should have been the number 1 overall pick in 2018? That he was good enough to flip the Cleveland Browns into a winner? That he was far and away a better prospect than Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen? That New York radio legend Mike Francesa said that New York City would one day belong to Darnold? Hey, bruh, I think we can all appreciate the vote of confidence, but it was never happening. And it's not because of Darnold. Since 1996, Pro Football Talk pointed out, the Jets have fielded 12 starting quarterbacks who have led their teams in pass attempts and starts for a season, and only 4 of them have finished their stints in New York with winning records at the end of their respective seasons. Their names? Neil O'Donnell, Vinny Testaverde, Brett Favre, and Mark Sanchez. It means no one since Sanchez has come out of New York a winner. Not Geno Smith, not Ryan Fitzpatrick, not Josh McCown, and not Darnold. In fact, those 12 Jets QBs are combined 180 and 220 over the last 25 years. And it seems the Jets were at least ahead of the curve in this one way. They'll ship a quarterback out just as soon as they don't believe he's any good, a trend the rest of the NFL has caught on to. From 2009 to 2016, there have been 15 quarterbacks selected in the top 10. None of those quarterbacks are still playing for the teams that drafted them. During this offseason alone, we've seen the Rams and Lions punt and then swap on their first-round draft picks at quarterback, and both of those dudes were taken #1 overall. We've seen Dak Prescott, a quarterback selected in the 4th round, wind up in a perfect storm raining down 4 years, $160 million on his head like he's Magic Mike at Magic City. We've seen the Patriots re-up with Cam Newton and Drew Brees leave a job that is likely going to be won by Jameis Winston, aka Mr. 30 for 30, or Taysom Hill, aka Go-Go Gadget quarterback. The team in Washington told Alex Smith, "You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here," just so they could see if there's any Fitzmagic left to rub on a franchise that's won 3 division titles during this century and who counts Kirk Cousins among its best franchise quarterbacks ever. We've seen Tyrod Taylor signed again, and now we're likely about to see Tyrod Taylor start again. Jalen Hurts so good that Wentz is in Indy, while Jimmy Garoppolo is staring down the Niners drafting his replacement. The Chicago Bears named a QB1 none of their fans asked for, and the Mississippi Minshew is about to get pushed out by a Clemson quarterback who is a dead ringer for Ronnie Bass. What I'm saying is the QB carousel is a lot, and it's moving at a speed that was once unheard of. So you can see why this is as aggressive a year to draft quarterbacks as we've ever seen. It's also a nod to the modern emphasis put on selecting a QB in the first round. In 1984, Boomer Esiason was the first quarterback selected with the 38th overall pick. It feels like football would have to be a completely different sport for such a thing to occur, because it is. We've removed helmet-to-helmet hits, and we've entered the age of analytics. We've come to appreciate to the nth degree how much it matters to have a great quarterback, but we don't seem to emphasize the one variable that matters most in the NFL: the management of individual franchises. The Jets had Sanchez, who took them to 2 straight AFC title games, only to be remembered for the butt fumble and being carried by a defense that was awesome. But since 2006, the Jets have started 11 quarterbacks, and 4 of those are first-rounders. And just so you know who we're dealing with, those 11 dudes are Brad Smith, Kellen Clemens, Eric Ainge, Sanchez, Greg McElroy, Geno Smith, Taj Boyd, Bryce Petty, Christian Hackenberg, Darnold, and James Morgan. And don't kid yourself, there was a moment when all of them could play. But somehow Sanchez is the only one of those whose moment did not come to an end when he put on the green and white, and they washed out quickly. After all, the Jets' all-time QB stat leader for starts is still Broadway Joe. You haven't heard too many people picking apart Zach Wilson's game for several reasons, but at the top of the list for me must be because we all expect him to start his career as a New York Jet. And I can confidently say it ain't him, Jets. It's you. It's like dating. You got to fix yourself before you're good enough for anyone else.